Grow, Sell, and Retire is a podcast for aspirational entrepreneurs and inspirational business owners who want to work less, earn more, and even more importantly, have an awesome time while doing it. Your host, B.D. Dalton, author of True Gravity, is here to give you the systems, processes, and actions for you to create the wealth that you've always dreamt about. Get your pencil, paper, and brain ready for secrets and top tips from his 25 years of experience in helping people build wealth. Here's your host, B.D. Dalton.
Welcome to the Grow, Sell, and Retire podcast, listeners. Oh my God, it's success tips for the lazy overachiever. Today, I'm bringing you one of my favorite people. In the last 3 years, I've read 3 amazing books. They've changed my life, changed my outlook in the way I look at things, making sure that I take everything on and use the full advantage of all the tools I've been given, get rid of the things that I don't really like to do, and really focus on the things I do like to do. Today, I'm going to be talking to Shane Snow. He's the author of Smart Cuts. And this is really getting back to those ideas of growth hacking, making sure that you can grow yourself using the tools that you already have at your advantage. He was in Inc.'s 30 Under 30, so Inc. magazine's 30 Under 30. He's an amazing man. He's been in the Wall Street Journal, been all over the place. If you haven't ever heard of Shane Snow, you need to go look this book up. You need to go on there. If you love great speakers, you're going to go on there and find Shane Snow and make sure that you engage with this book, because this is about, and we're going to go deeper into it, using the things that you gain in one bit of employment or one bit of your life and using those advantages to another part of your life. So get ready to sit back and be intently listening to some of the amazing things that are going to come out of this. Because if you're a lawyer right now and you want to be in software, Shane's going to say, do that. You're going to learn about 10X. You're going to learn about a lot of different things that are going to make your business better tomorrow. So this is your chance to listen to Shane Snow in my amazing interview with him about Smart Cuts. So here's your Grow, Sell, and Retire interview. Talk to you soon. Sit back and listen intently.
Shane Snow, welcome to Grow, Sell, and Retire. Thanks so much for coming on. And for the people that don't know Shane or haven't read the book yet, it's one of my favorite books, and I've used it over the past 2 to 3 years since it came out in 2014 to use with my coaching clients. And so if you haven't read it, you need to go out there. So Shane, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Well, thanks, PD. I'm so flattered and happy to be here.
Well, thank you. So we'll move into so what are you doing right now? I know you've got your Contently, and kind of tell us a little bit about what's happening there and what you're excited about with the company.
Sure. So the company's about 7 years old now, and we our employee headcount is in the hundreds.
Wow,
which is crazy. Yeah, and so we've been growing the business and evolving and adapting, and that book Smart Cuts that I wrote in 2014 was my excuse to explore how to grow our business a little bit smarter, and also as a journalist who had an itch, an excuse to do some research and writing around a topic that I'm really interested in. So what's going on now is Contently is in this space called content marketing, which is using stories and content to build relationships and to make people care for a business, whether to acquire customers or to keep customers. And so we've built this big software company around that. And in the course of that, I've done a lot of writing on the topic of storytelling and a lot of writing on the topic of collaboration, what it takes to build a team and to make a team work. And also, for our customers, we build collaboration tools to help them do content right. So I actually have done the same thing where I've used the excuse of journalism and research to write 2 more books. And so one book is coming out in January. It's called The Storytelling Edge, and it's me and our editor-in-chief. It's basically our lessons on using stories to build a business and to build relationships within that business. And then next June, I have a book of my own that's coming out called Dream Teams, and it's about human chemistry and the science of collaboration, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So the short answer to your question, what have I been up to, is a lot, but it's all kind of on theme with what I like to do.
That's cool. So you can essentially use your heart and your why to make sure that you're distributing not only to your clients, but kind of being your own voice out to the people. That's really cool. So when you get paid to do what you love. So when you're looking at this, I've been to the book multiple times, and so some people that haven't seen it, what characteristics did you go out and seek to or find in people that are entrepreneurial that you found intriguing that made you want to write about them?
Yeah, so when I started my career covering, business and technology mostly, also science, which, is basically writing about entrepreneurs, right? People who are exploring new territory, who are creating new things and taking risks. What was intriguing to me were a couple of things, right? Just anything that's being created, that's new, that's being invented, that's being built is, I think, just an inherently intriguing story. But in terms of the people, that kind of classic entrepreneur or explorer type, the thing that I'm drawn to, kind of a couple of my own personal values, are curiosity and courage. And those are kind of the two things you need in order to stick it out with anything, whether you're working on a new scientific theory or whether you're building a business or any career really where you were taking initiative and exploring new ground is important. You have to have this insane amount of curiosity, which makes you very interesting for me to write about. And also you have to have the courage to, I think, believe that you will be the one that the odds fall in your favor when the odds are not in anyone's favor. And I think there's a little bit of mania kind of required for that. And then again, it makes for really interesting people for me to write about and then, kind of to be inspired by. But I think, if I were to, I've written about this before, but if I were to map out kind of the combination of characteristics that I think are the most important for an entrepreneurial leader, and I think even if you're just, blazing new ground and no one's behind you yet, it's what I like to talk about is this combination of being very opinionated and persuasive and also very adaptable. So we like to talk about, great leaders as strong and stalwart and stoic and, nothing can stop them on their way to do what they want to do. I actually think that is, whereas it's a classic definition of a leader, it's not a very good definition of an entrepreneurial leader, because an entrepreneur needs to be able to recognize when they should not hold firm and hold the line and when they actually need to turn and change directions. And so I think that, to me, is really fascinating to see the kinds of people who can convince other people to that what they're doing is important or to follow along on this journey, to work 100-hour weeks working for them. A buddy of mine who used to work at Tesla shared this story with me. Heartbreaking story, but a great example of this. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, he had assigned this guy, I think it was a Tesla, it might have been a SpaceX actually, I could be getting the story wrong. Either way, this guy's the CEO of both these companies, has all these engineers, and he assigned this engineer this project that the engineer had worked on for like 10 months and poured heart and soul into it. And then one day, this friend of mine said that he saw the boss, Elon, walk by and tell the guy, hey, I've changed my mind. I was totally wrong about this thing. Cancel that project. You're working on this new one now. And you could sort of see the face of this guy like, wow, I just did all of this for so much time, and now, like, for what? And then, Elon Musk can once again persuade him to work on this other thing. And that's a really tough thing to be able to do as a leader, and it's also a really tough thing to be able to do as a teammate. But I think that's the fortitude when I talk about courage. What it takes to be, a great entrepreneur is to not fall into the sunk cost fallacy. To realize that even though you've been working so hard on this thing, with new information, if you learn that you need to be working on something else, that you do it rather than sort of digging in and putting your claws in and kicking and screaming. I think that those kinds of stories are really fascinating and really motivating, that if other people can do that, then so can we in whatever work we're working on.
That's awesome. So in Elon Musk and people like that, so in your own world, is there something that you, after learning that or after hearing those stories, is there something recently that you've you said, you know what, actually, I screwed up, or, you know, that's not the way we're going anymore? Can you think of something that you might have missing, either big or small? Is there something that you've told your teams, actually, I was wrong about that, we're going to go this way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough, but that's a pattern that you see. And, you know, I think that that's part of what I love being able to do myself, is to use writing and research as an excuse to get to know these kinds of stories, to see these patterns, to then kind of fold them into the work that I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, it's tough.
So if we get to that, and the premise of the book, and people don't that haven't read it, you know, and you start off with a couple pages into it about the things that Abraham Lincoln and quite a few different people started off doing this and then ended up being this. Started off being this. And why should somebody choose a different career path, Shane?
Oh yes. So there's this pattern that I saw when I started writing Smart Cuts in terms of people with really fast career trajectories. And I had started with the presidents of the United States, just kind of digging into, what they did before. How do you, and actually the current president is an example of this, how do you skip the line rather than working your way up the ladder of, state representative, state senator, regular representative, regular senator, Speaker of the House, Vice President, all the way up to President. That story doesn't happen very often, and the people that manage to do that end up being kind of less good at the job because they're less adaptable and less flexible, whereas you see this pattern that almost every president manages to get to president without going through that journey, and they do it by earning credibility and leadership in other areas, so as business people or police chiefs or war heroes, that sort of thing. And then they succeed or fail based on how they apply those things and how flexible they can be in office when the job is to learn about some new topic about agriculture and then make a decision really quickly and then be able to apologize and change your mind when that doesn't go right. All of that thing, it's a crazy job. So I started researching that idea and then applying that to when you look at CEOs of Fortune 500 companies that got there, in a very fast amount of time. What makes the difference between those that get there and those that don't, and those that are successful and those that are not? And basically the pattern is on down to any person in their own career. There's I think three things that are really interesting when it comes to career paths. It's that the first is that we conflate time spent with skill and expertise in doing something, and that this is it's just a thing that is wrong with the way that the business world works. You pay your dues, you're there for a certain amount of time, and that earns you the right to move up the ladder. Whereas, as you certainly know, the two people can practice something for the same amount of time, and one can become much better than the other. Or two people can spend the same amount of time doing a job, and one can actually become more skilled at the job. My agent liked to say whenever we were talking about this topic that he's been golfing for 40 years and not got any better, and it's because he hasn't done anything differently. And if some people that really work in a different way, they can get much, much better in 4 years than he did in 40 years. So we have this kind of deranged notion around just the amount of time you spend at a job makes you eligible to climb up the ladder. And so that's how we hire people and promote people. But the second point to this kind of thought process is that when you are interviewing people for a new position, or you're the one being interviewed, what they look at more than anything is the credibility that you have in what you've done last. And actually, back for the presidents, what are the things that these people who we're planning on voting for have done in their past that indicate that they have what it takes to be a leader? And you can get that in a lot of different places that don't have to be a very linear path. And so kind of the whole Frank Sinatra thing, New York, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. If you live in New York for a year and you're a lawyer and then you move to Kansas, people will take your experience, even though it's 1 year of being a lawyer in New York, and they will they will give you a lot of credit for that. And so it makes it a lot easier to kind of switch jobs that way by leaning on that passive stamp of credibility of New York. And so that's something interesting that you see, and there's lots of research on this, especially millennials these days, when they switch jobs every couple of years, even if they stay in the same field, they end up making more money and they end up getting promoted quicker and quicker because as long as they can prove that they have the skills and the mentality to succeed at the upgraded job with more pay and more responsibility, then it doesn't actually matter how many dues they've paid if they're switching from company to company. And this is something that all of this research recently is bearing out. This is a strategy, and it ends up being concerning if you're trying to hang on to your employees and not have them leave every 2 years. And so it gives you motivation to start looking at the right things, not just have they paid their dues in your company, and so that you can keep them around. And the third thing that I'll say, and I think that this really makes all of this make sense, is this thing that I call cross practices, which is when you grow up in one industry or vein, or you learn one skill, and then you move to another adjacent space. You can often apply what you've learned, your perspectives, your heuristics, your skills, your experience from that other field to the new field, and this is where innovation happens often. And so people that can move from one career path to another often are the ones that make breakthroughs.
Because they're not the ones that are saying that's the way we've always done it. Is that
they're not doing it the same way.
Yeah. But it's when you walk in there and they say they question it, don't they? They say, well, okay, Shane, that's not the way that we did that at my old place, and you have to either explain it to them and justify it, which is a good thing, or say, okay, well, tell me how you do it differently. And I think that's everything that I've taken from what you've read and hopefully personal experience. It can accelerate the team and the growth, like you're talking about. That cross practices is amazing, but people don't think about that as much as they should.
Yeah, there's part of it's the kind of the naivety of asking the questions that someone who's been there forever wouldn't ask; they just take for granted. And part of it is saying it's coming with the ideas that you've learned from somewhere else. So the example that I love to use as a writer is James Patterson, who's the best-selling fiction author right now. It's sold $250 million worth of books or something like that. And he was like an advertising guy. He's a creative director of this big advertising firm. So he worked his way up in the advertising world, and then he decided to start writing novels. And when his publishing company was going to, promote his novel, he said, well, what if we made a television commercial? And they were like, no, that's not what you do in book publishing. There's no such thing as television commercials for books. He's like, well, can we do it anyway? This is what I do, is make television commercials. And they're like, no. And so he made his own. And it turns out that this television commercial is like in the 80s. It was a great way to promote this book. Tons of people bought it, became a bestseller. And then so that worked. And then the other thing that he did is you'll notice on every James Patterson book, there's two names. It's like James Patterson in giant letters and then, Shane Snow in tiny letters. What he does is he runs his book thing like you run an ad agency, like a creative director would. So as a creative director, he comes up with the big idea and kind of the framework for here's what the story is going to be about, here's what the book is. And then he has some talented, more junior person actually write the story, and then he reviews it and makes sure that it's good and adds sort of his touch, and then they publish it. And this is how he publishes, a half dozen books a year. And this is something that no one else is doing. Some other authors have started doing this, but he changed the paradigm by just applying this best practice from advertising and running an ad company to a novel writing business, and this is how he became sort of the most obscenely successful overachiever in the literature world. So that's what I'm talking about is that kind of thing you can see in every industry when there's been innovation, and it's also the excuse to sort of develop that curiosity outside of your field as an entrepreneur. The more you can learn deeply about how things work and how people are successful in one field, and then think about how to apply the analogies to your field, the more successful you're likely to be.
Very cool. So in that crossover period in the book, you talk about 10X. So let's walk through a little bit of your version of 10X and and what does 10X do for us as entrepreneurs or for our businesses?
Sure. Yeah. So the origin of my interest in this concept of 10X was the guy from Google X named Astro Teller, he's the guy at Google in charge of the self-driving cars and like the really crazy projects like the Google glasses and the weather balloons and like all that stuff that's just kind of out of this world. And he has this thing he likes to say, which is that it's easier to make something 10 times better than just 10% better. And so, I spent a good deal of my time for a few months kind of digging into that sort of mathematically crazy assertion and then writing about it. And basically the idea is that big ideas and big visions, if you want to do something 10 times bigger, it's going to be harder, but it's going to be much more inspiring. And if you can paint that vision for the thing that you want to do as something really big and important and powerful, then you can get the allies you need, the team members, the collaborators, the press, the investors, whatever it is, that actually make it easier. It's not inspiring to say we're going to make this widget 10% better and then see if we can fill, our customers from their loyal, brands and products. And that's kind of a hard thing to do. If you're loyal to something or you have a habit of working with someone or buying something, the product that's 10% better is going to be a lot harder to sort of win you over. But the product that's 10 times better, that's not even a decision. It's so much easier for people to switch, for people to buy into it. As a salesperson, it's so much easier to sell something that's 10 times better. It sells itself. And so, there's some inherent questions in that. It takes a lot of creativity and lateral thinking to develop something that is 10 times bigger or better. But it's more than worth it if you can get there. And so this philosophy basically says that if you stop thinking of things in terms of just sort of realistic incremental improvement and start thinking in terms of what if we had to do this 10 times better, then that's the kind of question that the answer can never be, well, we'll just come in on Saturday and do a little more work. The answer has to be we have to fundamentally rethink the principles around what we're doing, and then we have to sell this idea and this vision in a way that it gets people excited, and when people do get excited, then that's when the magic happens.
Very cool. So, and that's, I think that's what I was talking to somebody the other day. We were looking at buying a company, and we're going actually for probably one that's about 5 times the size of what they thought we should go for. And I said, it's going to take as much time to integrate those people and that culture and everything else as it is for this smaller company. So why would we go out and spend all that effort and time and headache to this small purchase versus the big purchase? They sit back and think and come back around to it. And I said, 10X, and I just handed them your chapter. So it was they didn't get it, but as soon as they read the chapter and came back and said, okay, now I get it. Okay, fine. So that's great. It's just easier to have somebody else explain it, because sometimes we don't, or not explain it, but just it's not in our brains only, that somebody else is thinking along that line too. But it's the time and effort that goes into it that people don't realize that. And the thing that you've said in the throughout the book that I think that you allude to more than say is that failure factor, or failing quick and moving on, and then making sure that then you learn from that and move forward, is something that entrepreneurs. How do you? I guess coming back to a question is, do you have somebody in your life that is not just a yes person, that says, actually, Shane, that it's great. We'll give you enough rope to go down that, but hold on for a second. You've either burnt a lot of money, time, or effort, and you need to knock that on the head, or are you your own worst enemy or coach in that space?
Yeah, it's there's different people in my business journey that play those different roles, and there are various believers and skeptics and enablers and kind of roadblocks. But I think, I have a business partner, for example, who's always the guy who is the first to say, I don't think so. even when he does think so. And I think it's actually really valuable to have the pushback and the skepticism, either that the way that we're thinking is too small, or what could possibly go wrong, so that you think more critically around the problems that you're working on. I find that to be very valuable. I do find that there are plenty of people that will say, well, let's go after the realistic thing, or, we've sunk this much money already, let's just stay the course, or, all of those things that you hear. And what's hard is being able to detach your own ego from those conversations and step back and think about, what from this feedback is a valuable learning, what's actionable, by looking in this direction that, this person is pointing me to. Is there something that I can see? And kind of on that failure question, right, that I like to, and you know this from reading my book, I like to reframe failure as feedback whenever possible, and to set up my projects and everything that I do as essentially experiments, that it's either going to work or we're going to learn something that puts us down the right path to making something that works. And
very, very cool. But I think that's the hard part, as I sit with a lot of when you're doing presentations, you see a lot of entrepreneurs, and I love the spark in the entrepreneur, but sometimes they need somebody that says, you know what, that you've just dumped your entire family's fortune into that, and all this, you've got sunk cost. You either need to get a job, move on, and come back, or figure out another way to do that. And there's, especially here in the UK, we don't have a lot of people that will either step up because they don't want to be the one to squash somebody's feelings, but they don't look at it as failure equals feedback. It's just failure equals failure. And so it's getting them to reframe it. It's a hard mindset to get through.
It is really hard. I mean, I think there's two sides of that, right? Like having the courage to be honest with people about what you're seeing as the problems and what your perspective is. That's an important collaborator that you need. And then on the other side, having the courage to look at that kind of feedback, remove your ego from the equation, and really assess, if this was someone else and not me, what would the right thing to be to do, and do I have this faith in this thing irrationally at this point? What does the evidence say, and do I need to change? And that will take a lot of courage. And I think that's why I love this combination of curiosity and courage, is taking all feedback and all the people around you that are saying yes or no, and becoming truly curious about why they're saying it and whether they're right. Not trying to disprove the ones that say what you don't want to hear, and prove the ones that say what you do want to hear. That's tough, and I think that takes practice, and it's easier to do it, at a small scale with projects that don't have your whole livelihood hanging on them. I think that's also why, for me, I think it's helped in my journey to kind of, it's almost counterintuitive to what I was just talking about with 10X, but the projects that I've worked on, entrepreneurial projects, even, journalistic projects, they've gotten bigger over time. They've gotten more ambitious. And I think because I've gotten comfortable with the risk-taking process and the feedback process, in less sort of, my head and my reputation are on the line kind of ways. And now I'm more willing to take those bigger risks, where my reputation is on the line, but also I'm, committed to adapting so that I can make that work. And I think that's where, if you can have that courage and opinionatedness and persuasiveness, but also that curiosity and adaptability, then you can paint the picture of where you need to go, and you can get there step by step. But yeah, that's tough. But I think the most valuable people in my journey have been the ones that have told me what I didn't want to hear. And the times I've kicked myself the most have been when I haven't listened and I haven't sort of let go of my personal attachment to being right.
Classic. That's really good. How about some fun questions? I What's your favorite bit of tech that you're using? It could be one piece, or it could be either software, hardware, whatever you want. What's floating your boat right now?
Technology-wise?
Yeah, technology-wise.
So, the coolest thing I've been using lately, actually the last couple of years, is so I try to be good at meditation. A lot of business people will tell you how helpful meditation is. And there's this headband, this brain sensing headband that's sort of a meditation aid called the Muse, M-U-S-E. And I love this. It basically Bluetooths with your phone. You wear this headband, and it measures kind of your brain signals while you do a meditation session. So Bluetooth to your phone, you put headphones in, and you do like breath counting or whatever the meditation thing is. And what it does is it detects when you get distracted. And so when you're distracted, you start to hear like thunder clouds and crashing waves, and it sort of gently reminds you that you're getting more and more distracted. And so then you can, focus and breathe again. And then when you're calm and you're sort of being aware and focusing on the meditation, then the clouds go away and the thunderstorm goes away, and you start to hear little birds sort of chirp. It's called neurofeedback training, I believe. Just helping your brain kind of recognize when it's doing a good job of meditation. It really helps, and it's also kind of makes meditation into a game. So that's been something I've been really excited about lately.
That's just crazy. Gamifying meditation.
Yeah,
it's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? It's neat. It's awesome, but it's just I'm making this into a game. So the game is not concentrating.
Yeah.
Or be muscle. That's very cool. What are you reading right now? What books are you? Are you a Kindle guy, or are you a paper sort of guy, or a Kindle or Nook or whatever?
Yeah. So for research, I tend to do Kindle because then I can do it on my phone. I can do it on the go, and I can actually search the books, which is nice for highlighting stuff and searching for it. But if I'm just trying to enjoy a book, I never do it on Kindle. I always have to do it in paper. I like kind of the romance of that. So the book that I'm reading right now in hard copy is a book called October by, I don't know if I can pronounce his name exactly right, but it's China Mayville. And what it is he's like an experimental horror writer. So, not stuff I would normally read, but, I think like horror stories like Stephen King, but like more experimental and weird. And what October is a nonfiction book that he wrote about the October Revolution in Russia. So when they overthrew the Tsars and the Bolsheviks came to power. And I started reading it because it's 100 years this year after that revolution, this revolution. And so imagine this crazy horror writer writing about the true story of that revolution. It's fantastic. It's just so well done. And a fascinating story too. Just everything, even from kind of an entrepreneurial perspective, this was a minority group with a big idea, a crazy idea, that managed to make this enormous sweeping change, and then things went horribly wrong. And fascinating story. So that's what I've been reading lately for fun. And then, on the Kindle, I'm always reading a bunch of nonfiction stuff, a lot of stuff kind of in line with what I'm writing about neuroscience and psychology and stories and human chemistry and all of that stuff.
Very cool. And the whole thing is you're a rebel and revolutionary until you win, and then you're the winning team, aren't you? So it's crazy. You told us about your project and book. So where can people learn more about you? Where do you want them to go find out more about you and some of the new projects?
Yeah. So my website is just my name, ShaneSnow.com, or you can Google me. From there, you can kind of get everything. Our mailing list and we'll keep you updated on my projects. But
that's the best. That is the best. That is the best message at the bottom of your screen that says don't push this button. Oh yeah, I love Rebels. That's just it's just a classic. By Michelle, my wife, who runs all the marketing and stuff for us, just said that's cool. Yeah, of course I clicked on it. You told me I couldn't click on it. So yes, I clicked. I could have shut down my computer. I don't know, but you go for it. It was very tempting, so we had to go for it. So no, that's very cool. So we go to Shane Snow. And do you travel around and speak? I mean, I've seen it says speaker on the website, but so do you actually, people can hire you to speak and go see them globally, just U.S. or what, anywhere?
Yeah. So I spend a bunch of my time doing that. What I love doing is exploring, learning, and then sharing what I've learned and what I've seen, and I do that through writing and speaking, and you can learn all about it there.
Cool. So and I'll put that on in the transcript and everything else so people can track that down. And then the last thing is, how about just a final word for the listeners, or final idea, thoughts around for the listeners?
So this morning in our editorial meeting at Contently, my company, someone brought up the band Journey, and we got sidetracked on Journey. So I think my final words for listeners would be, don't stop believing.
Don't stop believing.
It's good advice in general and a great song.
There's going to be people either from the Glee era or from the Journey era that are now going to be singing this all day long, and they're going to dislike Mr. Shane Snow for the rest of the day. They'll love the information, and they're going to leave this going, don't stop. Yeah. So thank you so much for your time today, and I'll look forward to reading the book. And thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on Grow, Sell, and Retire. For more information, tools, or to book one of our team members to work with your team, business, or to speak at your event or conference, visit bartdaltonconsulting.com or email contact@bartdaltonconsulting.com. Buy the book True Gravity on Amazon. If you want to work for the rest of your life, that is your business. If you don't, that is ours.